Well, it's already 7 past when we're supposed to start, so let's just get started. You guys are the VIPs. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining, those who could actually get in. So we're going to go over the just brief introductions, and we're having a vet to viz story. If anybody wants to share their own experiences with military, getting data, or if you're not a vet, you know, why you chose this group. The guest speakers, we have Zach Bowders and David Breezier. And then we're going to go into the veterans. We're going to go over some of the some of the submissions for the vet to viz challenge, and then just open it up for discussion. All right, and these are the leads. I'm Tim, Air Force vet, 4 years, 6 years in the Air National Guard. Ethan should be joining here soon, but Chris, you're online if you want to just give a quick introduction.
Yeah, I was in the Marines for 4 years, 2001, 2005. Then worked with Tim at the VA after I got out of college, after I got out from the Marines, and been doing a whole host of different things. So yeah, nice. Yeah, that's not, no, Tim.
What?
That's not my Twitter handle.
I forgot. Forgot I changed that a long time ago. Sorry.
Awesome. Right.
Why don't you put it in the chat? Sorry about that. I completely missed that. I did that as a joke.
No, that's totally, you know what, that was meant to be. That was meant to be.
Sorry.
What you know, hey,
Sorry.
I always give Tim a lot of I'll use a polite word. I give a lot of slack on Air Force, but it's all, you know, it's all inter-service banter, really. Yeah, so, you know, I do a lot of work in SQL and Tableau and Power BI, so just all over the place, but happy to be here.
And then Abe, are you on, or are you still doing laundry?
No, I'm here. Hey everyone, nice to meet you all. If you haven't met me before, Abe, Marine Corps vet, did 10 years. I did supply, and then I did recruiting. I got out August 2020, got my MBA, found data at some point, and right now I'm a data analyst consultant at a small analytics consulting company, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do, and I'm honestly just pressing buttons when I'm working, and it's working so far. But I'm doing a lot of Python, Tableau, Power BI, all that good stuff. So please connect with me. I'll drop my link in the chat right now.
All right, thanks. Okay, moving on. So this is our vet to viz story, and I put some suggested bullets there. You don't have to follow it, but if any of you want to just tell us a little background about yourself, how you got into data from getting out of the military. Like I said, if you're not a veteran and you just want to say why the community is important to you, and then what do you plan to get out of this tug? And like I said, these are just suggestions. So if anybody wants to go, or we can just sit here in awkward silence for a second.
I'll jump in. So I'm Will Strauss. I am, despite all of the thank you for your services I get on Veterans Day, I am not a veteran. My father was in the service. His father was in the service. I did not qualify for military service, or I think I would be very good at it. But the fact that I owe, you know, like my father served for a very, very long time, and a lot of my close friends were in the military, and I grew up on an Air Force base in Chicopee. I've always felt some kind of call to serve, and have just been really appreciative of this community, and Tim and Ethan and Abe in particular. Sometimes these Tableau user groups get judged by their size, and this is a small group, but it's super mighty. You guys are really involved, and it's, I think your mission is really well stated. And I've just always been a huge fan of this group and the people in it. And so, yeah, that's me.
Cool. Thanks, Will. And you've always been a champion for us as well. So I credit your support for where we are today. So thanks. Anyone else? I gotta ask real quick, Tim Zajac. So I actually served with a pilot in the Massachusetts Air National Guard named Zajac. Any relation? Because that's the only other place that I've heard the name.
No. Although it is a rather popular Polish name in Poland, Zajac
it is.
is like Smith,
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm thanks for running a group like this. I stumbled on it, setting up a Tableau public account after a boot camp I went through. Yeah, I'm not quite a vet yet. I think another 180 days I can call myself one. But hoping to get into data once I leave the Army. So,
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's only 90 days of active duty, right? That you're considered a veteran?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I mean, he's still in the active, he's still active, so he's a service member technically, but sort of gets out, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, so Chris and I, if you missed it, both worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs for a while, so.
oh, okay.
Yeah, for a long time.
For a long time.
I've been in the Army a long time.
Yeah.
30 years. So
Tim, were you at Hanscom or Burns?
I was at Barnes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I was
The
there.
A10s?
They're F-15s now.
15s?
They've
Yeah,
been F-15s since 2009.
that's my neighborhood. Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
great.
I
Yeah,
know. When he said
Westover, yeah.
yeah, when he said Chicopee, it's right next door to it in Westfield.
Yeah, we had the big boys.
Yeah, actually, that if you see the flag behind it, that's a certificate from the that I had flown for my late father-in-law, who was a Marine as well, from that unit. All right. Anyone else want to go?
Hey, I'll
Anyone?
go. I'm not a veteran, but I'm an advocate for sure. Worked at Lockheed Martin for a decade and ran the Tableau whole deployment over there. So very well connected there. And I also work at Tableau now, just joined Tableau in the last week here. So looking to be an advocate, help with any type of connections into jobs, and if I can refer people and help you out in this group.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, let's connect after this. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Was that the next slide, or did I skip over it? All right. Okay, moving on to our guest speakers. So since it was my turn to put this together, as leads, we take turns organizing. Since I even started with Tableau, I've always wondered, and I've never really been good at. I have a passion. There's a story that I want to tell. How do I go out and get the appropriate data? And I'm pretty impatient when it comes to that as well. So I just want like a clean data set in front of me, and I want to start going. But I know that's not the reality. So I just tweeted out to the hashtag DataFam, and I said, hey, I have an idea. I want to know how to think of an idea and how to develop it, and then clean the data, and then I'll put it into a dashboard. And Zach and David's name came up more than once. So I'm really honored to have them speak about them. Their visualizations are incredible. I should have so this is a QR code to their LinkedIn, but I maybe should have done it for their public profile as well.
I'll put it in there.
All right, thanks. But that's the QR code to their LinkedIn, and then that's their Twitter handle.
And Tim, we've both got our public pages as part of our presentation, so they'll see them on that.
Perfect. And for David, so this is a 3L, so it's L perfor. You say it, David. I'm sorry.
El profe.
El profe. There you go. As he used to be a teacher. So there's a little bullet point. So Zach is a visionary and an ambassador, business intel specialist, and has a podcast, Data Plus Love. So I need to actually subscribe to that. Zach, is there anything else you wanted to say? Introduce yourself real quick.
David's awesome. So that's what David is. But no, Will Strauss in the group right now was actually the first guest on Data Plus Love 3 years ago now. So we're wrapping up our 3rd year, and Will was number 1.
Very cool. And David, he owns his own business and is project manager and blogger at Medium. So I'll have to look him up and read some and comment. All right. So now we're going to go into the presentations. And I don't know, Zach or David, I don't know if you flipped a coin yet or did rock, paper, scissors.
We decided Zach's going first.
Zach's going first. All right. Can you see everything okay, Tim?
Yep. Perfect.
But Zach, you have to do your podcast intro.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So welcome to Data Plus Love. No, I'm Zach and I love data. And when David and I both decided we wanted to do this, we knew we were going to be talking about where do we get data? What do we do with data? How do we, clean and get your data together? Because if you're just sort of doing Tableau community projects or you're doing stuff at work, usually the data is presented to you and it's like, here's data. And then you do stuff with the data. And our approaches to this are going to be as unique as each of us. So for me, I was thinking like, how can I talk about this? Like, this is weird. And I was like, well, let me think about some different times I've, had to do something with data besides just like being handed it and it worked out great. So this is 3 stories. I'm Zach Bowders. I do a bunch of stuff, but I do data because I love it. And I also do it because it's fun. And I would not be here speaking to you right now. I would not be as involved in the Tableau community as I am. I wouldn't have all the visualizations I've done if I didn't love doing it. And part of that for me was finding topics and ideas that I wanted to explore versus sort of just doing the ones that were in front of me. For some people, everyone sort of got their own stuff that they love. And it was for me finding my lane and the stuff that really invigorated me that has made my career as fun as it's been for me, as well as my sort of public work. So because a lot of people want to know where this is going and I like to ramble, I'm going to be talking about 3 different projects: The Fisher Job, Shit Show, and John Wick. So there's going to be mild PG level 80s style profanity in this. And I know veterans don't curse, so I'm sorry. But first, let's talk about a project called The Fisher Job. And The Fisher Job is based on the movie Inception. So if you've seen Inception or any Christopher Nolan movie, they're super confusing and very complex. And he loves big, weird ideas. So I was sitting one day, it was actually in a church service, and I'm friends with my pastor, and I still tell him this, hey, thanks for a boring sermon that day, because it gave me a great viz idea. So I was thinking, like, how did that movie work in the first place? Like, there's a dream, and then there's a dream within a dream. And I just sort of I sat there and I started drawing it on a piece of paper. Like, okay, so there's one dream, and then there's another dream inside of that. And as I started to think about this, I'm like, this would be a cool topic for a data viz, but this isn't like data. When we think of data, we think of like Excel sheets and rows and columns and stuff. But then as I started to think about it, it's like, well, it's like a map. It's just not a map we've ever done before, because usually when we think of maps, we're thinking about real locations or even fictional locations. But in this case, we're mapping an idea. So I was like, how do I even do that? And to name drop, it was a friend of mine who's now a colleague years ago, Vince Baumel, who exposed me to the idea of Cartesian mapping, which is basic points on a grid. Like if you map point 1 at 1, 1 and point 2 at 1, 3, you can connect these and make different shapes. And as soon as he explained that to me, it all sort of clicked into place. So I started drawing this out and realized I could actually make something out of this in Tableau. So I started thinking about the sort of different characters in this movie and where each of them go at different times. And because Tableau at its heart is a point mapping tool, all I really had to do was figure out, the different lines for each character and where they would be going at different times. And then I could create my own data set of point 1, Arthur was here, point 2, Arthur moved down to this, and so on and so forth. And right now you're already thinking like, okay, he's going to be talking all theoretical. This is definitely not applicable to anything I've ever done or I'm going to do. And you might be right. But sometimes when you're doing something that is unorthodox, you have to come up with the data yourself, which I find for a lot of my projects. So I like weird stuff. Like I did the Nathan's hot dog eating contest recently. where I had to go find the data from Wikipedia. I also did one on school shootings this past week where I had to go and ask a nonprofit, hey, can I access your data source? I would like to make some visualizations on this and get their approval. So sometimes it's as simple as finding the data or getting to the data. And other times it's a matter of creating the data, which I was doing in this case. So we talk about data storytelling, and that's sort of a trigger word for me. Like I had my boss and my director not too long ago say, are we doing enough data storytelling? And my first response is to cringe. But data storytelling, when I think about it, is just what are you saying here? Because we've all made a visual or a dashboard before where the charts may be totally competent and they might be fine. But when you look at them all, it's like, okay, so what's my takeaway? Like, what am I actually doing here? Because sometimes it feels, particularly when you're earlier in your career, that's just enough to put something on the page. And as long as you're competently expressing what's on the page, then you've accomplished the job. But that's not really the case. You have an objective. You're trying to communicate something. So what are you trying to communicate? And if you don't know what you're trying to communicate, you're not really communicating anything. If you're sort of hoping that someone will just look at this thing and find something within it, you at least have to have established what you're doing as a thing that could do that. But in this case, I'm trying to tell the story of a movie plot. I'm trying to explain what's going on. And it ended up looking like this, where if you look on the upper left corner, you see the 7 characters that are in the movie. And if you follow their lines down the page, you can see how they go deeper and deeper from dream 1 to dream 2 to dream 3. And at each level, one of the characters stays behind because they are the host of the next dream. But then as you round the bottom, each character is returning back up and they have to proceed back up through the preview. If you haven't seen Inception, this is going to be really confusing. This can't even spoil it for you. You're not going to understand anything here. So just God help you. But the idea being that sometimes we're trying to express something that maybe doesn't have like a typical way of expressing it. In this case, I needed to figure out how to draw lines, but first I had to know what they look like. So I drew it myself. And I was really gratified having done this project because by the time I finished it, I had learned some stuff about how to draw these, Cartesian coordinates. And I went through a lot of trial and error. Not everything worked like I wanted it to at first. I was mapping and remapping over and over. But then a friend online, Rodrigo, found this, and it's Christopher Nolan's actual hand drawing of the plot of Inception. And I thought it was really cool that this existed in the first place and that it was out there where someone could find it. But more so, it was really cool to be able to look at it side by side with what I did and say, hey, I was kind of onto something here. Like I didn't do it in the exact same way he did, but like it kind of feels like an accomplishment to understand a Christopher Nolan movie, but it feels like more of an accomplishment to be able to explain a Christopher Nolan movie. And I can say that because I watched Inception at my house with my mother-in-law, and it was a 5-hour screening for all the times we had to pause it to explain which dream we're in and where. So in this case, I was dealing with a data situation where it's a sort of unorthodox type of data to tell an unorthodox type of story. In Shit Show, it's a very common type of data, and it wasn't hard to get. So Kaggle has a lot of data, and I love going there. And in this particular case, there was a really cool data set out there of all sorts of television shows across 4 of the major streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime. And I've always had the impression that Amazon Prime has a lot of bad exclusive shows. And in this case, when I say exclusive, I mean shows that don't appear on the other 3 streaming services. It doesn't necessarily mean they made it. For example, Netflix might have an exclusive on Breaking Bad, but it doesn't mean they created Breaking Bad. It just means they have it locked to their platform right now. So I thought, it'd be fun. What if I did a viz where I looked at the 4 platforms and I looked at only the things that were unique to their platform and said, which one has the best stuff? Like, that's not hard, especially since I've got this data set. One of the dilemmas, though, is this data set was kind of like long and I needed to be tall. So as you can see, as it goes to the right, for each of the streaming services, it has a sort of binary 1 or 0 to say, is this thing on that thing? So I had to do a little data manipulation and a little cleaning in order to get it where I could just say, Breaking Bad, is it a unique show to a network, and which one is it? So you want that long data versus the tall data. It's easier to consume, it's faster, and it's easier to work with once you get in Tableau. But sometimes, it's not necessarily the most intuitive thing to do, especially if you haven't done it a lot. Fortunately, at work, we have Alteryx as a tool, and meet Alteryx's transpose tool. Transpose allows you to fairly easily turn long stuff into tall stuff. And in this case, I wanted to take some of those extra columns over there that defined each network, flop them over, and then do some calculations to say, if something's unique to one thing, I just wanted to show that. So ultimately, my data ended up looking something like this, where I've just got the title, the year. I also have the IMDb rating in there, which is way less useful than Rotten Tomatoes, and then what network it is exclusive to. From there, I was able to make this thing, which was kind of fun to do, where not only do I show the distributions across the deciles between 90% or higher on Rotten Tomatoes, 10% or higher on Rotten Tomatoes, that sort of thing, but I also show the disaggregated data at the bottom where you can see those little scatter plots. And the idea behind that was I wanted to tell you the all up and say, okay, who's got the better stuff and in what order, which would be Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and Prime. But as I was doing this, I was like, wow, Prime is bad. And the entire viz for me became the story about how Prime Video has really bad TV. If you look on the bar charts for Prime, the bottom bar for the 10 to 19 on Rotten Tomato range is 34%. If you track your eyes down, you can see that they have a whole cluster at the bottom of that scatter plot. Just so many bad shows between a 10 and a 19. And if you look at the bottom left of this slide, you can see that this thing went viral on Reddit, which I post stuff to Reddit as a social experiment because it's fascinating to see what people grab onto there. You will see a simple Excel 3-bar chart about Game of Thrones get 25,000 likes. And then you'll see an incredible analysis someone do get like 5. There's no rhyme or reason. It's insane. So I put this out there and it went huge. But that means there's a whole lot more eyes on this than I've ever put on it. And who's going to go and check every single value in a data set they got off of Kaggle? Well, somebody did. So going back to those scatter plots, and at the bottom of the Amazon range, there was a whole bunch of 10s and 13s. Those are 2 lines across the bottom, which isn't unprecedented because you also see a lot of that at the bottom of the Hulu range. But it was a lot. And as this was confirming my own assumptions about Amazon, and Amazon's scores were lower in general, I didn't think too much of it. However, this guy did. So some guy found me on Twitter after seeing it on Reddit and generously told me that he went to look up these values on Rotten Tomatoes himself and found that many of those things are unscored on Rotten Tomatoes, so that whoever originally collected this Kaggle data set had a data scraping error and had junk values in there, which I didn't investigate too thoroughly. Who wants to spot check dozens and dozens of values? But also, there is a responsibility on the analyst to confirm the veracity of stuff, but to what degree and how long? So I botched it. I had the wrong answer. However, I did feel like I had a decent zinger on Twitter, thanking him and asking him to contribute his own work, as he had never put anything out there. But yeah, so I felt a little smug on that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was totally egg on my face. Like, there was bad data in there. Now, however, he's incorrect. It doesn't destroy my premise. In fact, Prime Video has a low score, and it goes up to an average of 43%, still making them the lowest, but it's not as abysmal. It's just less abysmal. So talking about my third project, which is John Wick. I love the John Wick franchise, like love it. It's the best. And there is a lot of data viz of John Wick stuff out on the internet. Like even major film and other media websites will do these things like, hey, John Wick stabbed 7 guys in this movie. But like no one ever includes a data set. They always just sort of keep that data source hidden away somewhere. So if you actually wanted to know more about this, there's no way you could do it yourself. They've got this information that they've just tucked away for themselves. So I wanted to do some John Wick stuff, but I couldn't. So I was like, how do I go ahead and do this? The data has to live somewhere, right? So, I mean, I went to the Continental in New York and it wasn't there, but I knew I had to find this data somewhere. So I did the only sensible thing, and I watched every single John Wick movie, capturing every single dude John Wick killed with what weapon, who they were, and where by minute. And now my data set is available on Kaggle for anyone. So yeah, I really wanted to do this project, and that meant I was going to hand collect this data that no one else had and no one else was sharing. Not the most fun way to do it, not something you can scrape because the data source is on film, but something where I had to hand capture the data in order to have it. But once you have it, it's replicatable. Now, let's talk about assumptions in data. All data has humanity in it at some point. And in this case, for this particular data set, how many Russians are in a Chevy Tahoe that falls off the edge of the docks? I don't know. I bet you don't either. I mean, a Tahoe could probably hold 8. It's probably at least 2, but who knows? Because there's no establishing shot showing me 7 Russians getting into a Chevy Tahoe. All I know is John Wick drives this thing off the edge and it crashes. So in that case, I had to make assumptions in my data set. I had to make a judgment call. And in those cases, I knew someone had to be driving, so I credited them as 1. So my data set is probably inaccurate, but there's probably not a real way to validate that either, unless I could talk to like the screenwriter. So I went on and I made 3 different vises about this. I started with the first one on the left and ultimately ended up doing the entire trilogy as it exists right now. And for me, it was just an exploration of how would you even visualize this data? Like, obviously, time is a factor. And when you look at the times of it, it really tells you the beats of a movie. Because any movie, it's built into set pieces, right? So in the first movie, you've got a big scene at John's house, and then there's a long lull in the movie until he shows up at a nightclub, because it's not a John Wick movie if there's not a nightclub. So you can actually sort of pace out the movies, and you can see that John Wick 2 has one of the biggest downtimes of any of them, between a shootout at a chop shop at the beginning, and then later a coronation in Rome, which is mid-film. So it actually is a long stretch in the middle of John not shooting anybody. And looking back, it was a fun project to do. I'm glad I collected the data. And while some of the stuff is dated, I might do it differently now. I'm glad I did the exercise because it made me think how I would do this again if I had to do it differently. So my name is Zach Bowders. I had a lot of fun talking to you today. And yeah, no 2 data sets are the same. No 2 projects are the same. You're going to have to use different tools, different techniques, and sometimes just adjust your own expectations with dealing with stuff and understand not all data is clean. Sometimes you will be the problem. Sometimes other things will be the problem, and just learning to roll with the punches and continue developing yourself.
That was pretty impressive. So what I got out of that is, sometimes you just have to go out and create your own data set instead of just rely on somebody else to have it. Or
I almost always do.
Okay. All right.
Like that, it's very rare there is a data set just like you want it. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's in a format that's not workable to you. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I just wanted a way to say shit show and a tug. So
Yeah,
now I've reached that.
that's fine. Yeah, and then also to actually just go out to like a email a contact, like a nonprofit or something, and say, hey, I'd love to have this data. I'm just creating a viz. So that's an idea too.
And now
So-
it's going to be using a Makeover Monday. So I reached out to him. I saw that he had some visuals, but they were pretty rudimentary. And I said, hey, is there any chance you would let me use this? Because I had a mentee that was looking for this kind of data. And I was like, this would be perfect for him. But I had to reach out and ask, would you be willing to let me use your data? And he's like, okay, you have to credit me. I'm like, that's fine. I said, what if instead of just me doing one, what if I could get you hundreds for free? And he's like, that sounds great. I said, but there's a trade-off. We're going to have to make your data publicly available. So yeah. He was willing to do that. So look forward to an upcoming Makeover Monday with a whole bunch of school shooting data, which was very burdensome to work on for me.
Yeah,
but I think it's worth it because the more eyes on it, the more different angles we see, and the more we learn, and the more we can lessen the impact.
Yeah, and I've also never thought about posting to Reddit for feedback. So
it's not toxic at all.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll try to filter that out, but yeah, no, that was really cool.
Thanks,
Anyone
guys.
else have any questions?
I saw one comment come up that said Zach is the most amazing Viz designer ever, and I have to agree.
Well, that's not right. Thanks, David. And Allison's right. It's data is beautiful. Data is beautiful is a fascinating place. So
Yeah, I've seen
so
that.
go
Good.
check it out. Sometimes there's amazing stuff. Sometimes there's not amazing stuff. People's reactions to stuff is all over the place, but it's interesting to see all the different stuff people. Yeah, it's Reddit.
Yeah, awesome.
That was probably me, because I will back up, Zach, that you are absolutely one of the most talented data artists that has ever lived. For those of us that have been in this space a while, and what I appreciate is that you're like me, is that you like to do silly non-work stuff, and it balances out. We all work with really metallic, heavy data all day. We don't like. It's not just that. Even like David's profile has a lot of public data, I noticed, and maps and things like that. So it's nice to get away from that space and go into the pop culture and go into your interests and kind of express your passion. So anybody new to the group, like, that's always the best thing about public. It's the best way to get realized we're all the same kind of weird, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so my turn now.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
All right, fantastic. Let me see if I can get this on the screen. Everybody give me 2 seconds to make sure that my technology is cooperating this time. Where's the button? There it is. All right, come on. All right. Can we see that? Is everybody good now?
Yep.
All right. So where'd you get that? Hello, everybody. I'm David Bresler. You'll see my logo at the bottom right. If you see my business Instagram page, you'll see it at the top of the profile, and you can always find a lot of my a lot of what I have to say attached to that hashtag, Vision for a Living. Yes, I'm a business owner. I got into visualization because I spent a decade in the teaching field, and as much as people think teaching has nothing at all to do with numbers unless you're in a math class, try teaching for 1 year and turn in reports every quarter or every grading period or every semester. Once you figure out how weighting works and how weighted averages and all of that kind of stuff, and what administrative groups are evaluating you on, and how your own teaching evaluations are scored, and you start to look at things and consult with the math teacher, and like, how does this calculus work? And like, that's not calculus. In fact, it's actually not math, but evaluations are funny that way. I also finished a master's in public administration, project management, which is a field I've been involved in since 2015, is very data centric. Contracting, I've got a lot of vets on here. A lot of vets know a lot about procurement, and procurement drives just about everything that has to do with both the military and the veteran experience. And everybody knows a lot about how many numbers are involved in the procurement workflow. After that, pandemic was very data centric, and I actually, as a result of the pandemic, very fortunately he survived, but my dad was in the hospital for a very long time, sick with the virus when it originally exploded. And because I have siblings that are not all in the same place, and I'm the caretaker for both my parents, everybody wanted to know what the data was on dad while he was in the hospital. So I built a visualization chart for my family so that everybody could come to the same place and see where the graphs were. I haven't published that chart, and I'm probably not gonna, but for obvious reasons. So let me talk about some use cases for how I'm using data. I want to make it specifically clear, because Tim mentioned this at the beginning, and we've had this conversation previously, and it's something that goes on a lot. I do not use SQL at all. I don't use Alteryx, and I don't use prep either. Although I should probably learn one or all of those at some point. Everything that you see on this slide, I pulled a data set from. It was a public data set, except for that one on the right. I'm going to talk about that one on the right in 2 seconds. This supply chain visualization, this logistics stuff, but even the stuff that's in this dashboard on the right is all things that were on a public facing page that I was able to just pull off and dump into a spreadsheet and then create some Tableau visualizations for. Currently, I'm deeply involved in the offshore wind industry and pointing my analytics expertise at things like construction and engineering. And that's what the supply chain logistics dashboards specifically were for. The supply chain one is from a database that I pulled out of an agency. It's a publicly available database. Everything that you're going to see on here, anybody can get to it. But the database is interested suppliers for that agency in the state of New York associated with offshore wind. Now, you want to talk about dirty data sets. This was one of the dirtiest data sets I've ever seen. I had copies on copies on copies of people's profiles, and I literally had to take about a month to just clean it up and get out all of the duplicates, all of the half profiles, all of the stuff that wasn't there, just so that I could turn it into a multi-level Sankey chart after several meetings with Ken Flerlich. So that was a definite experience. The point of me talking about that is, the data lake is always muddy. And you've got to come up with a process. There are a lot of processes to automate cleaning up your data, but what I find frequently is that, the automated processes to clean up data usually take stuff out that I needed. Or you're eliminating some kind of you're eliminating some sort of factor that is gonna be critical to how it is that you do your analysis later. So sometimes there's no replacement for just like going through it manually, and that obviously takes some time. But I would love the idea that there's now Einstein, and Einstein can can say, hey, this is what it looks like you're after, so here's the data packet that you should work with. That's a definite assist. So this came out of the agency. I told you about the cleanup process. What's really super critical about this is that if anybody has any experience with project management, you'll notice that there's 5 bars. So that coincides with 5 phases that are pretty general to most projects, which are initiation. People are having an idea about a project. Planning, you're going to plan out the whole project plan. Then you have to execute on your plan. You've got to monitor and control all of the problems, and then the last bar is all of the closeout. So what you're looking at is companies moving through each phase of an offshore wind project in that Sankey chart. Also, something I thought might be particularly appropriate to veterans logistics. I don't think anything happens in the military. Knowing many veterans and many active duty people, I don't know anybody that hasn't had some experience with logistics on some level. So this is a logistics dashboard. This I did for World AIDS Day. And this is all data from the federal agency called USAID. And it's how medications related to the treatment of HIV travel around the planet. Right. So you've got the price of generics in the top left corner. You've got now you're not the orthodox theory is you're not supposed to use pie charts, but I do sometimes use pie charts, right? Like, is soup cereal or is it not? But I sometimes put pie charts on my dashboards, and you'll see them in different places. But that's the distribution of brand names. You'll notice that there's one big chunk of that pie that's all one brand name. So you'll see that there's a lot of money being spent on it. The map is where you've got the heaviest distribution of medications. Red means hot. And the bottom right corner of that dashboard is all transportation modes. You'll notice that there's one on there called that says null, right? So why would you want to put that in transportation modes? Well, it's pretty important and the insights are important from your data, right? What happens is there are some countries that are pharmaceutical producers. And so you've got, and that is one of the reasons for there to be a null. One of the other reasons might be that they just didn't record how it got transported. So what that points out is that there's more investigation required. I'm going to stop talking about that dashboard right now. And because this is all about how do you find data for your passion projects, CrossFit happens to be one of my passions in the past few years. I started to really get deep into the fitness process, and the games are always really, really exciting to watch. The game season by itself also shows a lot of really interesting developments, just how that whole process works out, and all the politics and drama that unfolds as it begins and until it ends. It's real crazy. The orange colored spider in the bottom left corner there's a popular video series on YouTube that CrossFit HQ does called Miles to Madison, because Madison, Wisconsin is where they used to hold the games. If they moved them, the contract, speaking of procurement, they ended the contract for holding the games in Madison, Wisconsin. What Madison is going to do in order to supplant the money that they were getting from the games events being held there is still an open-ended question. But they're moving the games to Alabama next year, which by itself is going to be a very interesting thing to watch, because Alabama in the beginning of August is blazing hot and incredibly humid. And if you have people doing really intense physical activity outside in that sort of environmental conditions, it could be an unsafe situation. So that's something to watch. But the orange spider is about how much space each athlete that was invited to the games has to travel, because there are 80 athletes traveling from around the planet to Madison, Wisconsin. So one of the questions is proximity important? Is proximity to the games location important? These scatter plots with the trend lines in the top was an attempt to take a look at the highest correlating factors in each of the fields. And I invite everybody to take a look at this. And there are a couple of interesting things that came out of it. I also have my original descriptive statistics visualization hot link to that dashboard. And like I said, you'll see my Tableau public page at the end. These are places where I have pulled data and frequently have interactions with their data warehouses. When I put together something that's going to land on my Tableau public page, I don't want to have to spend over long trying to think about how I'm going to filter everything and sort of shoehorn it into the right space. There are a lot of places where you can get ready-made sets. Like I said, I don't generally build my own. However, there are a couple of times when I have put things together on my own. You'll see over here Redfin, and where's the other one? The US Census. I have one dashboard that I didn't include the thumbnail for, but it's specifically related to real estate pricing and comparing that to what is the word I'm looking for? To salaries and affordability in the real estate market. And that was a real interesting thing. I had to shoehorn stuff together between Redfin and the census, and those two things were particularly not they weren't really they didn't fit together very well, but you know, you get enough hammer and nails, you can put it in, you can put anything into into the right space. Let me zip forward here. Oh wait, so there is, and I did also give the data set from this month a try. These are all my links right here, in case you're interested in coming to see where the rest of the information is. I'm gonna real quick share this. This is my attempt at the data. Or do you want to, Tim? Do you want to show the other data sets first and then this, or you want me to go first?
No, you can go first.
All right. So again, a lot of my stuff is very agency like. I'm not the level of designer that Zach is. But there is, let's try the, why is the button not working? Here we go. All right. So I'm going to put this on, where's the button I'm looking for? I want the presentation button. Where's the presentation button?
Go right a little bit. Oh, a little bit. In the see your year of date, 2020 filter.
Yeah.
It's above that.
You know what's happening? It's getting covered up by the screen share.
Ah, I got it.
So
you can see it fine though, right now.
All right, you can see it though. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Let's go with this, because the first thing I wanted to do was, a lot of these I had to do several different unions to get all of this stuff together, but this was important. I'm going to slow this down. This was important. Watch this for a second. Everybody see the stuff on the right shrinking?
Mm-hmm.
So that's important, right? Because suddenly you're getting an idea, you're like, this is a distribution of the entire country. And you're getting an idea as time rolls forward of the fact that the overall total number, right? These are veterans, these are people that have come out of service, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But if the people that have come out, it means that there was also people that went in, right? And so, and sort of like Johnny Mnemonic, I've looped it. So I'm going to stop this for a second. The point that I'm driving at with those two things in conjunction is that we just hit 8 billion people on the planet, right? And our capabilities militarily, whether, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, depend on the number of people in the service. And so if this number is continually shrinking while the global population is continually growing, that's a big question that we have to ask about. This is something else entirely different. You'll notice that we've got the states here again. Here you've got the branches across the bottom, right? But also you've got, let's do DC. Of course, it's going to run slow when I'm on screen. Notice how the distribution's changed. Let me go back and undo this. Watch the bend in the curves again. Everybody see that? And then over here, this is just a heat map of where all the people are, in terms of, and you can also, for example, here's an age band, right? And you can take a look at the numbers. So a lot of my dashboards are very agency-like, because I spent way too much time inside of an agency. So all the stuff that I designed looks very much as if you're sitting inside of an agency office. However, there's quite a bit to extract from all of this, right? And you gotta sort of fiddle with it a little bit to get more. I'll probably be writing a longer blog piece about it to pull out some insights. But anyway, that's the end of that. Let me stop sharing. Let me hit the wrong. I hit the wrong button. Stop sharing. All right, and we'll go back to Tim.
Thanks. That was really good. And I know we had this this conversation during when we had our prep meeting, but when you mentioned that you don't have any SQL or Alteryx or anything, and really neither do I, but you're still able to create these incredible visualizations. And I think, going to conference and talking to other data people, they all, the ones that you see most of the time anyway, or the most vocal ones, are the ones that like are scraping the web with Python and creating SQL code and people like Chris Arrigo here. I don't know if you saw his presentation. I think it was last month, but like he's our data person here in the tug, and or he's the one putting together all the stuff. But
I'm that guy. I'm that guy that he's in the arm wrestling competition and he has the one huge arm. I'm that guy.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting point, right? Because you've got a lot of people who just specialize in Alteryx, Python, SQL, are like they complete that stack of analytics things. Yeah. But I kind of go about it from the Albert Einstein perspective, which is you can always find someone to do the math for you.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like I can call Chris and say, hey Chris, yeah, I'm Alteryx stupid, but I know that this is your level of expertise, right? Yeah. And so the thing about project manager is project managers don't do anything, right? Except for they know who it is they're supposed to call to get something done, yeah. Right? And they authorize the money, they follow the budget, they follow the schedule, and they track the requirements. But it's not that project managers are not skilled. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is they have the right phone number. Yeah. Like I don't know everything. There's no way. It's just not possible, right? Yeah. But I know that Chris is the Alteryx guy. So if I need Alteryx, I'm calling Chris. I'm like, I'm not going to sleep with a headache, right? That's his job.
Yeah, and if I need a viz, I call the rest of the guys.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
That's
it. Get really good at one thing. That's advice.
That's it. That's it. Be very, very good at your unique skill, right? Yeah. And make that what people know you for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a strategic planner at my job. I work for the FAA, mm-hmm. And I always tell people I have to know a little about a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to go into the weeds with you because I don't know everything about everything, because that would just be impossible. Mm-hmm. So cool. Well, that was really good. Thank you very, very much for that presentation. Does anyone else have any questions?
I just had a comment on David. Thanks for looking at that data set. But yeah, basically what you were saying is it's pretty spot on. And I think at least like my understanding of it is like you have the all volunteer force starting really after Vietnam, right? So you don't have like all the wars after that were not draft wars. So right. You don't have that huge amount of people that served during that time. And I think it's like, I could be wrong, but I think it's like 2028. That's when you cross the line where post 9/11, that group of veterans, and even the first Gulf War, if you lump them together, then they end up being more than Vietnam, the counts. So it was definitely something that's very valid. And it's just like, if you kind of look back, it's like, oh, that's why. It's like it's because 77 they implemented the all volunteer force.
Mm-hmm. And there's a question, right, about, because in a lot of European countries, in a lot of South American countries, there's a required like 2 or 3 year military service, right? And then what you learn from that and what you carry out of that as a result changes your perspective about the world, you know, and how it good or bad, right? It's
I think that's what I do think about. We're kind of going away from data viz, but this is a veterans group. So why, like in the United States, like we're unique and we're veterans, like we have Veterans Day and it's like thank you for your service. But you go to other countries and it's not like that, because they do have a conscription where people do have to serve in the military. So it's like mostly everybody has served 1 or 2 years or whatever. So, but for the United States, it's purely volunteer. We're stupid enough to actually sign up for that. And then we do it.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so that's interesting. It's very interesting. All right, cool. Any other comments about anything apparently? All right. Let me share my screen again.
Looks like Zach's got his hand. Is Zach clapping or he's got his hands up?
He's clapping.
All right.
All right, 1 second, share. All right, go from this screen. Oh wait, what is going on? 1 second, bear with me. I don't know where my mouse is. I'm on 2 screens. There we go. All right. So this is probably, I don't know if this is a surprise anymore, but we're known for having a the challenge coin. And so we would like to present Zach and David with a coin. It's a military tradition to show our appreciation. And we will get you one of these. Just give me an address, and we'll send you one of these for our appreciation. So in the military, we exchange these. You get a coin for going through basic training and things like that, but also people make them for all sorts of things. But we really thank you for presenting and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, cool.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been really great. The presentations were amazing. Okay, next we're gonna go over some of the presentations, or some of the oh, I forgot to add the credit here, but I think you're on, the person who made it. Aaron, right? Aaron, you made this, right? So I don't know if you want to. So you go off mute. But so one person who made this, or one of the sorry, let me start over. For the Viz to Vets. So it wasn't really in the, maybe we should have said this before, but you can go in and you can use any of the data sets there. We had the vet pop there. That's the one that we were highlighting, but we do have a website, vizforvets.com, that has our data sets, and you're more than welcome to do any of them there. So let's check this one out. So this was about the Tuskegee Airmen. Aaron, I don't know if you're having audio issues, but I don't know if you wanted to go through that.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, so my name's Aaron Vitiello. I'm a Air Force vet. Served 6 years National Guard, did some active duty time, got veteran status, although I don't claim the title all too often, but I guess technically I am one.
You should.
Just started getting my VA benefits actually, so I will certainly claim that. Those are nice. But yeah, so I just joined the group last month, and I came across the challenge with Veterans Day coming up, so I put this viz together. It was actually a really great learning experience. I honestly didn't know all too much about the Tuskegee Airmen. Being in the Air Force was a little surprising to me, but yeah, it was great to learn about the history and the struggles they went through. I get to learn about all the different pilots that were put through basic training during the Tuskegee experiment, and learn about their origin, the missions they ran, supporting bombers over Europe during World War II. It shows with the heat map here, you can see the place of origin, that they all came from across the different states. You can actually see the breakdown of what they were trained on, whether they were pilot liaison, single engine, twin engine, and the years. So that was sort of the graduating class breakdown. And then as you scroll down more, you get to see more of the actual mission reports. You have some prisoners of war heat map over Europe in terms of where they were seen to have gone down or reported to have gone down. If you mouse over the actual individual little fighter icons, you can see some more reports of the actual pilot information. Some of them actually have actual mission reports, and just some details as to the aircraft, what the potential cause of the report was, and things of that nature. So yeah, overall, it was just a really fun data set to dive into and sort of look at. There was a lot of information, around just the pilots themselves, the aircrafts, the different areas of where they went down, what missions they supported. And I just tried to, kind of show that in the viz here, as well as give a little bit of background to their history. So a little bit of balance between storytelling and data visualization, I feel.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thanks for submitting this. This is really, I did a Tuskegee Airman one as well, and I learned a lot from it as well. So diving into data and trying to tell the story and how you want to tell it, really, you really learn a lot, and all the different techniques and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm a bit more of a function over form. I like the minimalist views. I'm not super advanced yet in doing, all the fancy vizzes, but yeah, I enjoyed this one. I plan on doing more challenges.
Yeah, sometimes it's the simple ones that tell the more clear story, because you don't want to look at a chart and have to figure out to take a few minutes to actually read it and understand what it's actually showing you. So sometimes simple is better. So
yeah, I want to try and convey the information within the first 5 to 10 seconds of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, very cool. Pause for any comments about it. And we'll go over.
I thought it was a good job.
Yeah,
very clean.
And then, all right, so next, let's see if I can do this. Yep. All right. Our own Chris Areco posted one. So Chris, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. I kept it pretty simple because it was Veterans Day. I wanted to play with the flag and make a working flag, but I didn't know how to kind of set it up. So I got it to work, and I had some issues with, I wanted to make it a little bit smaller, but then the stars would have been really, really, really small. So, it is what it is. It's something I might go back to at another point, but what I try to do with the data is I grouped it. I didn't keep it exactly the same. So I grouped some periods of service together, and I think it was on the Gulf War. I did that for the red bars.
Mm-hmm.
So if you click a red bar, it's like one of those groups of service. So then it shows you kind of, if you do that for that year, what it would look like. So each bar represents an era of service. Each of the stars is the states. And originally I had it in alphabetical order, but then Tim was, correctly said you should be in the order that they ratified the Constitution. So I was like, okay, Tim, all right.
But now you have to learn what your state and the order. So it's
yeah. So I retook my
learning experience.
So I took a citizenship test, and then I came back. Yeah, so no, it was right. So I came back and I did it, and then I fixed that up. So that was a good comment.
Yeah.
And then I did, some of the same things with the year, toggling it over. Um, and yeah, each star is a state. And if you hover over I think Tim was showing that, it shows you kind of like a county breakdown of where the veterans are for that year. And in the state. So getting back into like trying to make some things work in Tableau. Try to keep it pretty simple, and that's about it.
Very cool. Yeah, Chris and I went back and forth about what it should be and order of ratification or alphabetical. I think you made the right choice, Chris.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. All right, we'll move on to the next one unless anyone has anything to say. All right, and why don't we just do mine? All right, so this one, so I use the same data set that that David did on his about the population of the different eras and stuff. So so I had sometimes I do wonder, like, when's the last World War II veteran like when are all of the World War II veterans not going to be around anymore? So I did this and I made it kind of look like I don't know, maybe like a board that you would see at a headquarters during World War II or something. And I got these the pictures for this is a World War II vet, Korean War, and I had to put an airplane behind it because the Korean War soldiers and the World War II soldiers looked very similar, just because it was only a few years apart. So I had to put the aircraft behind it. And then here's a Vietnam. So I have this control here, which it's an animation. So when you press it, hopefully it works. Yes, it does. You'll see the timeline going down. So this is how many vets are still around, and this is projected data from the VA. So this is not real data, obviously. But as the veteran population disappears, so does the picture. And it's not on the same scale. But yeah, so for dramatic effect, I wanted all the pictures to disappear, even though in 2050 there are still about 250,000 Vietnam vets around, but only 16 Korean vets and 0 World War II vets. I wanted to put like what year I didn't know how to, like, at what year the like, for instance, the World War II vets go to 0. But let's just go through it again. So in around 2000 and man, the last ones really are just like holding on. So it's about 2045. They're pretty old at that point. They're over 100 years old. But so I titled it "Thank Them Now" because we kind of take them for granted at this point. So if you see a World War II vet, thank them now, because they're not going to be around for very much longer. So anyway, I learned a lot about that. I tried multiple different ways of how to make the images actually disappear. But it was a great learning experience, and a lot of transparent worksheets and everything were used for this, which is a fairly new ability in Tableau too. It's like the last few years, I think. So, all right. So we'll move on to the last one, which actually, I don't know, Chris, I'm going to have a hard time explaining this one. Do you know more about this? So this didn't use any of our data sets at all, but I'm pretty sure they did it for our challenge. They used our hashtag.
No, he's from Tableau.
Okay.
He just used our hashtag. So he was doing it's John Keegan. He's one of the I think he's on the VA account, but basically he took VA sale data, which is mental health. I mean, it's treatment data, and he made a dashboard, and he just used our hashtag, which he did a call where he kind of went through this and went through ways to kind of look at healthcare data, and it came out pretty clean.
Yeah. I think from
Looks
what
really
I
good.
could gather, it was like the quality of health, mental health treatments that people were getting or something. I would have to like really
Yeah. So
read
sale, I'm not
background.
sure if sale is really just mental health, but
Mm.
it's you can get mental health quality data out of sale.
Okay.
If anyone's wants to get more information about, like you want to play with VA data sets, I'll pull it up, but there's a VA data catalog, and I think John just got it off of that
Cool.
online. Within the past like year or two, they put this out. They have an open data portal now.
Yeah, it's a nice looking dashboard. I know if you click on this, I think it everything filters. So it's pretty cool to play around with that a little bit more. Okay. That was the last one I wanted to share. I don't know if anybody else had anything to say, or if there were any last minute submissions that people wanted to share. All right. Oops, I didn't need to share that. There we go. All right, so that's really it. Oh, actually, we're just have 10 minutes left, so good timing. So I appreciate everyone joining. I think there were some complications on actually with the link and everything, so I apologize about that. But we'll post the YouTube link for everyone to watch it who couldn't actually sign in. But our next meeting is what, December 16th, I think. Not sure who's actually going to talk at it, but be sure to go there and RSVP and let us know if you have any issues with that. But Chris, do you have anything to say?
No, I mean, I think we have some after the new year, we have some good things planned. We do a quarterly challenge, and we're kind of talking about what the next challenge is going to be.
Yeah.
So if you have any suggestions, any sort of thing that you might think is impactful for one of our quarterly challenges, or if you just need help with finding a data set or something like that, just feel free to reach out. I think we have some good ideas for this next one coming up, especially after some of the ones we did this year.
Cool. I did want to hold on one second. Actually wanted to stop sharing. There, pause share, I guess. Oh, stop share is right there. So one thing I wanted to show is that Tableau actually did a blog about us. I don't know if everyone saw it. Let me bring it up. Oh, here it is. So the Tableau released this Veterans Day blog about us. So if you wanted to know more about us, I don't know why you would, but I can't. Oh, there we go. Scroll. Highlighting some projects that we've done. Oh, Aaron, there's your thing right there. They put that up there. But yeah, has some information about our challenge coin, and then also I don't know if everyone's checked out our actual site. I think I'm making everyone dizzy here, sorry. Here's our it's a Viz for Veterans site. So this is where you would get some more information and find a data set. And like I said in the beginning, when we have challenges, we really welcome anything, but we highlight one, which is the vet pop, but we have the homeless veterans. You can download the data, and that connects you to our GitHub. but we will be posting more, but you're more than welcome to do anything that you want. And if you're looking for data, you can contact us, and especially Chris, because he knows where the data is at. Okay. Anything else? I think we're out now. I guess we might be losing people, but I really appreciate everyone for joining, and please join us for the next one. Tell everyone, all your friends about us, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye everyone.